Welcome to the podcast Running Toward. This podcast tells stories of ordinary people who couldn't look away once they saw the hidden crisis in foster care and the families impacted. Our guests share heartbreak that led them to take reluctant and unexpected small, faithful steps toward the most vulnerable in their communities. Not because they had a plan and not because they felt ready, but because they couldn't unsee their pain. You'll hear how people living normal lives discover that getting closer changed them. Their comfort mattered less, their grip on uncertainty faded, and their faith got feet in quiet, everyday ways. Ending the crisis for one or for all isn't a quick fix. It's a long, slow, often messy journey alongside one of the most overlooked and misunderstood groups in our community. Running Toward gives you a front row seat to the hidden crisis in foster care and the families impacted, and to the ordinary people who choose not to look away.
Welcome back to the Running Toward podcast. My name is Mike Kraft, and I'm blessed to be able to be here in the month of June talking with dads as we have our Dad Takeover to honor fathers for Father's Day, but also to be inspired and encouraged by their stories. And I'm here today with a dear friend who is a man of deep conviction, a man of faith in the Lord, and wants to follow where God calls him to. A man who is very accomplished in his career, a man who's very driven and focused, and is a man that I have a lot of respect for, but also is someone who understands that there are seasons and things in life where we don't have control. And foster care happens to be one of those spaces. And so today we're going to have a conversation about what does it mean to be a man who leads our families well, but also trusts in the Lord to do for us what we can't do for ourselves. And so today, would you welcome with me to the podcast, Dr. Chad Jackson?
It's Chad.
Chad, how you doing, man?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Chad, so, we like to start this podcast by having a conversation. What does a Wednesday, typical Wednesday, look like at the Jackson household? Tell us about your job, your wife, your kids. What is life like for you?
Typical Wednesday, Beth's probably working from the home office, managing some things with the kids as well. Also, I'm usually in the office. My office is about 5 minutes from my house, so it's nice that we're close by. Kids are off to school, except in the summertime. Typically we have to do an early dinner because kids have youth in the evening to get off to, and so that's a time to figure out who's taking who. And
you have 5 kiddos.
5. I would probably claim 6, but yes.
Claim 6, yeah.
5 officially.
Yeah.
Are mine, but we've got 2 are adults, so 2 are in college and getting ready to. One of them's already graduated. The other one's graduating in December.
You guys have quite
Starting
the spread.
Careers,
somebody's
yes.
getting married. Somebody's moving to Florida. Lots going on in the Jackson.
Lots going on. One graduated from high school,
Jackson house.
And then I've got the 11 and 12-year-old. So.
Yeah. So Chad, tell me about like life for you growing up. Like you came to faith when you were a young kid.
Yeah, 6.
And then just explain that, and then how you first learned about like adoption, foster care, and all of that.
I would say deep conviction of, hey, Jesus, I will do what you call me to do, happened at 12.
Okay.
And so I spent my adolescence trying to figure out career and, okay, Jesus, what do you want me to do? Who do you want me to be? And I don't think I've ever lost that. That's just something that's been a rhythm, even as I got married to Beth and we've started our family, and even our family, it's okay. Adoption's somewhere in there. That was something she was convicted about as a teenager. Mm-hmm. And so we thought, certainly we'll do adoption, but how's that going to come about? And had friends that did international adoption. But really exposed to foster care probably when we were adolescents, had the family in the church, with the big van and the big van, right?
Big van. Come on, somebody.
And kids who maybe weren't always regulated. If we
I think my family would fit that profile, right? Big van, kids not always regulated.
Yes, but not really knowing, okay, what's going on with them? What challenges do they encounter? And really not understanding the backstory of some of the other people that were in the youth group with us.
Yeah.
But fast forward to we're married, we have our own 3 kids. next door neighbors, CPS, caseworker, essentially, and a juvenile officer. That was the couple next door.
Wow.
And it really got us to understand some of the challenges that the county has, the system has, that kids have with broken families. When we moved to Texas back in 2012, it was then God says, this is how you will adopt kids in your family, and it will be through foster care.
Yeah. So I said at the beginning, Dr. Chad Jackson, and I know you're a humble dude, but the reality is you are educated and got your doctorate. You're a physical therapist. You teach it at Incarnate Word, and you were the mayor of a city in Missouri. And so, I mean, I know you're a humble dude, but I'm just giving the audience a framework. Like you're a pretty high capacity guy. Like you like to, make decisions, lead quickly with clarity and conviction. And, when you get a guy like you gets in a situation like foster care, where what was that like?
God made it really clear that you don't have any control, and these kids are not mine. And oh, by the way, your own biological kids really aren't yours either. You're just entrusted to lead and guide and raise them. So, for me, it was somewhat freeing, and that may sound a little odd to our listeners, but we don't have control, but it's freeing because I don't have to try to control things. I have to still provide and protect and guide and shepherd, but I'm not trying to control everything because I need to let go.
Was that hard for you?
No, because I understood it.
Man, you're a better man than me, Chad. For me, I'd struggle with that. Like, man, they're going in my refrigerator and checking everything and going through my cabinets and all of this stuff and asking about our financial situation. Somebody even asked, some pretty intimate marital questions and like all these things. And I'm going like, what the heck do you need to know about this for? And, a kid gets a bruise and you got to go to the ER because it's, and
take pictures and videos,
you got to take pictures and videos. And, so that was a hard adjustment for me. I mean, still is. We're 9 years into this thing and still is. What would you say to a man that is thinking about foster care, maybe struggling with the control issue?
I would say certainly let go, right? Ultimately, we don't have control. But you can still, within that, model for your family what it is to serve Jesus. And I think knowing I'm a very logical person, so I knew what I was signing up for. I knew that I was going to get the questions, and it's part of the process. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to agree with all the rules. But I have to be okay with it, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I would say let go, because the process of letting go, serving your family well, and leading them in the purpose, because it was our family purpose, right? It wasn't just Beth, it wasn't just me, it was our family that were going to do this. We were going to bring in kids from broken situations and love them well. And that led to deep, bonding as a family, growing closer in our faith, growing closer as a family. So I would say just embrace it. Yeah.
So a lot of men really, I think there's a few roles that we pride ourselves in. One of them is providing for our family and making sure our families are provided for and protected, or cared for and provided for, but also is protected and to be the protector of our family. And so when you kind of open up Pandora's box and you don't know, you say you've got, at the time you had 3 kids that were relatively young, right?
8 to 4.
8 to 4. Okay. Yeah. And you say, hey, we're going to bring in other children into our home. We don't know their stories, don't know what's going on, don't know pretty much anything, and they're just going to show up at our house. How did that confront the instinct that you have to be a protector? What was that like for you?
I think for me, though, it was certainly, let's not be foolish. Let's not give away who we are and where we live to all the families of the bio families of the kids that come in our home. But we could still love well. Giving up control there also is, for my kids, better understanding the world we live in. They need to know what the world really is. So for me, it was like, I want them to see the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
Right? Within the whole process, so they can fully understand. and have a different worldview than most of their peers.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've, as a dad and obviously a husband and a father, I take very seriously my job to protect my family. But what does God want me to protect my family from? And sometimes I think that there are hard things. Like following Jesus means we're going to have messy things. And sometimes leading them even into hard and messy things is what it means to follow Jesus.
Absolutely.
And we try to protect our family sometimes from things that Jesus never called us to protect them from. And, I know for you, when you said yes to foster care, you said you had an understanding that, hey, I'm going to have to give up control. How have you let go of that, though? Like, what does that look like for Chad Jackson?
Maybe it's, I wouldn't say naive, but for me, I just don't focus on it. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about trying to control the situations. I think one reason why maybe it's a little easier for me to let my kids encounter the messy, encounter the hard, and not try to control it is, when do we grow the most? It's through challenges, through hardship.
James 1, right? Well, consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds.
Yeah, I also see that just in my day-to-day with my students. When do they grow the most in trying to learn their craft? When they struggle, when they go through the struggle, and we allow them to do that. So I, just from a pure teaching and learning perspective, not trying to control everything, but allow them to experience real life and real hard. Still, protecting and shielding some things from your kids that they need to be shielded, but still letting them see the impact of addiction and what that does for families and for people, and to lean into that, to pray for families in the midst of their messy.
So you said yes to foster care.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna do this. Tell us about your first placement. What was that like? Explain it. Go for it.
First placement, May of 2013. We knew it was going to be a short-term placement. They thought maybe a few weeks, month. There was some family getting their home study done, which was great. And 11-month-old girl, we only took girls, came in. My 8-year-old thought it was great. She got to be big sister. My boys they would engage, and they were 6 and 4 at the time, and play and do all the things. And when the day came for her to go, there were tears. I think tears with Beth and my oldest. For me, it was like, well, it's part of the process.
Right.
So it's fine. It was fine, right? It wasn't a extremely bad situation she was coming from, but needed some time away from bio mom and dad so they could get some of their life together. And but it was, I don't know, if from a dad, from a provider, protector perspective, it kind of met the expectations, and there really wasn't too much out of the ordinary compared to some of the other stuff that I know that we've lived through. Yeah.
And then while you're continue telling your story.
Sure. Do you want to hear the next placement?
Yeah.
Okay. It was, I think she left, and the next placement came in maybe a day later, 2 days.
Okay. Didn't waste any time.
Pretty
got
quick.
After it.
Certainly a different situation. Unsafe. Mom was in an unsafe situation.
Got it.
And that one we learned we had to be pretty careful, kind of how to protect our own identity and self when we take kids for the visits. It wasn't anything bad. The caseworkers walked us through it, but she was with us for I feel like almost 3 months, 2 or 3 months.
And you've had a total of how many placements?
I would say, I don't know, I've maybe lost count, maybe 8, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but there's 2 that have stayed. Talk about them.
Yeah, there's 2 that have stayed. So our third placement, we went, I think our second placement I just talked about, she left, I think, in August. And we're like, well, it's going to be like last time. 2 days later, we're going to get another placement. But hey, let's tell our agency, let's take a week off.
Yeah.
The week went by, the next week went by, the month went by, 2 months went by. Still no placement.
Nothing.
We were kind of surprised. If the need is great, why aren't we getting a placement? And so it got to the end of October, I think. And our agency called us, said, hey, the caseworker selected you all. Would you consider taking this 3-month-old girl who was already in foster care, was with a foster family, and I believe they were military, getting had to go to a different state and maybe even different country, being placed there. And so they're like, hey, we need another family to take over this placement. And, oh, by the way, it might move to adoption, considering some of the dynamics and some things going on within the family. And she's now forever ours. She's now 12. But we think about, like, well, if we would have got a placement, we may not have been the family for her. And
right.
Certainly.
It's wild how that works, man. I think about that a lot in our story.
Absolutely. Our time, it's not about our timing. It's about trusting. Okay, what did we say yes to? It was to be able to invite children, invite the state in our home to care and love for kids, and God knows what he's doing. So let's just trust him in the process.
Yeah.
And that wasn't hard for me. I think Beth questioned it a few times. Like, okay, like what's the why? Why is this happening? Like, huh?
So
it'll happen when it's going to happen.
So speaking of your wife, Beth, works with us at the Alliance and is just wonderful. And she was on a previous episode of the podcast. I think maybe episode 4.
Yeah, one of the first
few. Yep, 4 or 5. And she, you and Beth Ann are very different.
We are.
Which is great. You complement each other really well. How have you, as a man, processed this? Because, like, I hear you, Chad. I'm going, okay, you're a better man than me. Like, giving up control wasn't a big issue for you. You know, probably the kids got to go back, and I get that. That's part of it. But, like, she wasn't handling it that way, and was different for her. So how have you been gracious and patient and loving and supportive as a spouse? Speak to the men out there about that, because men and women process things very differently.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. And we certainly do. But we're usually on the same page with things. Our approach can be very different. We're celebrating being married 25 years today, actually.
I know, dude. Happy anniversary, man. So great.
I'm excited to do that. But life is still busy, so it's not like we can get away for a week and do fun things. Just her and I, which is fine, right? It's what God's called us to where we're at right now and what we're doing. For me, caring for her is being a good listener, as well as encouraging her, like remind her, okay, this is what God brought us to, or remember what he's called us to. It's about his timing. Sometimes she reminds me of that if I get frustrated.
Yeah.
But if she's trying to, it's keeping her up at night, and she's thinking about, okay, why hasn't this happened? Or we had a placement for 15 months and thought it might move to adoption when it didn't. When great-grandparents stepped in, and they were wonderful people.
Yeah.
That was really hard. And so to see my adopted daughter, who's 2.5 at the time, and my wife, just very deep depression for a few months as they grieved that child going. She was about 17 months when she left. It was being the protector provider was to be the encourager, to not try to fix it, which is hard, I think, sometimes for guys, right?
Totally.
I want to try to always fix things.
Yes.
I like doing that in my house. But I'm not there to fix it. I'm there to listen.
You said that word, man,
right.
the L word, listen.
Yeah.
And confession, I don't always do that very well.
Well, I don't do it well all the time.
And it's learning to listen and to
Yeah.
ask questions and how you doing? How you feeling? Creating space for that. No, that's so good.
And when I do that, I went, hey Beth, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? Or when she comes to me, like, sometimes I will ask, do you just want me to listen, or do you want me to help fix it? And most of the time it's just listen, which is great.
It's great.
Yeah.
Hey, I like that. I'm gonna put that in my arsenal.
We have clarity, right?
You're helping me out, man. Helping me out for sure. So, I know you and your family, and obviously both of our families are similar in the sense that we have welcomed everybody's got trauma. Let's just throw that out there. Everyone's got trauma. You got trauma. I got trauma. We all have trauma, right? Yeah. But what has it meant for you to open your home to kids that have walked through some unique trauma? And how have you learned about trauma, not just in children, but in families, in the system? And
certainly being open to learn I think that's what's neat. I'm a learner. That's one of my top Cliff Finder strengths, or talents, I should say, is as being a learner. And so with that, just trying to understand effective trauma, understand. I love the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Going through trauma training, certainly it opened my eyes to be able to respond differently to situations or outbursts. Or I think when early on when we were going through it, it actually helped me with my first son, who's one of my bio kids. The trauma training understanding helped us parent him better than it really did for the adopted kids or the foster kids that were in our home. Now, fast forward and they're mature and stable, and now it's more effective for those that we've adopted or that we'd bring in. So certainly being a learner, it's giving me more compassion, understanding that typically the kids that are in foster care, it's a generational thing. Maybe that's not typical is the word, but it's not uncommon for a child that I'm going to have in my home as a foster child that for their bio parents to have also been in the system. And so they come from brokenness and the trauma, and it's usually a response to their trauma. So just understanding that just increases the level of compassion. Certainly in my job and what I do as a faculty member, it helps me understand just that, looking and loving students through that lens of compassion and understanding that everyone has a story. And so being able to listen and understand where they're coming from more deeply, letting go some of our, or not values, but our biases that sometimes we hold on to, our frames.
For sure. And I know you have walked through some seasons of hard. And
still do.
And so can you give us a little window into that? Like, what does that practically look like? Like, what kind of things are you navigating? Well, obviously protecting.
Sure. There are children that are in my home or have been in my home that respond to guidance and parenting differently than I ever respond, or different than maybe my oldest. So I think it's just a matter of, again, understanding that and then being willing to change my own response. And I think as dads, sometimes I'm like, this is, we think about how we were raised and our dads and our parents, right? That was just their response, and it was maybe didn't change over the course of their life. But having to be a learner and being able to, my default needs to change.
Right. I'm so glad you said that, because the other day, actually, I said to my wife, I said, if I would have responded to my dad the way that they just responded to me, forget about it. Yeah. Like that wouldn't have ever crossed my mind to say the things to my parents that these kids just said to me. And oh my goodness. And I almost find myself bowing up a little bit. Like, no, you can't talk to me like that. And I'm going to be
That's
respected
our default. That's
right
our default.
Now. And no way. Yeah. And I think then I just kind of calmed down a little bit and thought to myself, you know what? But my dad also didn't have I didn't adopt all these kids with trauma and from really hard spaces. Sure. And if my expectation is that I have to be respected and everybody's going to have to give me a yes, sir, and then maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, because I have to adjust my expectations and respond with compassion and take a break when I need one, instead of raising my voice and defending myself or my wife and so, no, I'm glad you.
Yeah. And that's not to say that my default still doesn't shine through at times, right? Because I value respect. Yeah. I think as most of us guys, that's typically the majority would say they want to be respected. There's a lot of literature out there that speaks to that as well. And when your child maybe curses at you or calls your spouse names that are not kind, that the protector instinct and the default response, typically that still wells up at times, and I have to remember, okay, how can I guide them to health? I'm not saying not let the behavior go and never address it,
right? But
in the heat of the moment, it sometimes isn't the way is to respond in a default way,
right?
And so I think responding and helping kids that maybe have more trauma than maybe what is typical. I don't know what typical is, but
Yeah.
we grew up in a loving home. Like I grew up in a loving home. I didn't have a lot of trauma, but a few things. But their response, their default is different, right? And being able to try to mold and shape that, into more appropriate is what's needed.
Do you ever find yourself getting like angry with the people that caused some of the harm and damage to your kids?
There have been a few times. I don't, and I love Beth, my wife. She gets more angry, or has had seasons or times where she dealt with that differently than I do. Sometimes she would say, "I'm not very emotional or very feeling. Like I have no feelings." She knows I do, but I maybe separate it out a little bit more and silo it. So it's certainly something we talk a fair bit about, just about the response, and really gives us another reason to pray for the people who caused the trauma, because that's how I deal with maybe my own anger or feelings about it.
For sure. And, one of the things about you, Chad, you're very instrumental in helping us get the Center Dads Retreat started. That was kind of your brainchild of bringing that here to San Antonio. And we have a great community. But I remember we were at the retreat, and we're going to come back to that in a moment. But we were at the retreat, and I was talking to you, and you were really in a hard season. And one of your kids was really struggling and kind of making everybody in your house on edge. And I said, hey, how do you handle that? And do you remember what you said to me?
I don't.
That you would oftentimes find yourself sitting outside their door, just praying.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And this experience has driven you to a deeper level of prayer, of communion with the Holy Spirit, and that you were just talking about even some of your own spiritual disciplines of like reading the Word over your kids and praying out loud. And I called you one time because I'm like, dude, this kid's going completely nuts. What do I do? And do I pray out loud over them in the name of Jesus? And you're like, sometimes,
sometimes
and so
I do.
So talk about that a little bit. Like, what's that been like for you, having to fight this spiritual battle?
Oh, well, sometimes it just, the awareness. I have one child who tends to be more explosive in their expression of how they feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can really escalate into maybe some threats of self-harm or attempts of some self-harm at times. And so when you're not able to console your child, you do feel helpless. And certainly I've had those moments. I'm sure you've had those moments where you're like, man, I can't console him. What can I do? And I think as fixers, as people, like dads who try to typically fix things, we try to fix it first and maybe pray later. And I think God's pointed out that sometimes, or really all the time, we should approach it God first. It's not always my default, but I have found myself praying out loud, even to the point where in the midst of their, it can be hours long outburst, they call me out. I'm like, why are you doing that? Who are you talking to? And I'm like, well, I'm talking to Jesus, I'm praying. And that creates some uneasiness for the child who's maybe having a moment or a long moment. But certainly there's, I think, opportunity for all of us dads to make that more of our default.
Oh, for sure. 100%. 100%. You've said that some of the deepest growth that you've seen in your family and in your children has come through fostering. Yeah. And in what way has this changed the culture of your home and your family, and how?
I would say certainly being more compassionate, understanding of people that are both living in our house and their bio families. The exposure to the real world. I think, and we try to, as a society, I think we try to shield ourselves and our families from the real brokenness that occurs in our world. But my family sees it. I don't think I'm sure you're maybe similar, Mike, that there's probably not a story that someone could tell you that would surprise you. Doesn't mean it doesn't create conviction and what else could we do, and really allow us to turn to Jesus to press into that. But you and I both know the world's very broken.
The levels of brokenness are just unbelievable.
Yes.
You get this proximity to it. And so how has this proximity to brokenness like changed the way you view the scriptures, Jesus, and your understanding of him?
I think it's created maybe disappointment. And what I mean by that is I have to show grace to other Jesus followers who don't understand the levels of brokenness because they're not living with the same view or worldview or experiences that I have.
Have you found this experience caused you to become a little discontent with the American church?
Very.
How have you navigated that?
Certainly, I think, again, showing grace is what I try to do as my default. We had a situation, I won't get into the specifics of it, but where we were exploring some different services for our children and services provided by other Christians and Christian organizations. But those organizations not in a place to serve Christian families with either from a resource standpoint or that maybe that's too hard. Maybe consciously they haven't thought that's too hard for us, but not pressing in and really being Jesus. And so that's really probably where my disappointment sometimes is with the church or with other faith-based organizations that say we're going to go out and serve, but it creates some unsettledness with me.
Yeah.
Is that really how Jesus would do it?
Well,
right?
I think there's tension
Yes.
because in some ways a Christianity that does not care for the vulnerable and prioritize the most vulnerable is not the Christianity of Jesus.
It's true.
It's not. And
Which
so
is why it creates that unsettledness.
If we see or experience that, however, I do think that there are a lot of people who are very well-meaning and they're very well-intentioned, but they may not have had these experiences.
Yeah.
And so getting a chance to share with them in a very humble way, understanding we don't have everything figured out either.
No, certainly not.
And so the last thing I want to do is to become jaded and upset, but also to say, hey, I think we might be missing the mark here. All this is happening in our community. This is what we read about Jesus. Let's walk in this, go into the storm together, And so speaking of that, Chad, you had this desire to, and you and I have talked that when you were going to foster as a family, you didn't want to do that alone, and you actually had strongly encouraged. I don't want to use the word made Beth go, but you strongly.
I made her go.
You made her go. She went to a support group,
She
right?
did. Yeah.
And when you first started and you had her go, what were you trying to set in motion when you did that? And
for me, it was knowing, okay, this is what God's called us to. Because I lived here in the summer of 2012 without my family.
Mm-hmm.
I started my job. We hadn't sold the house in Missouri yet. And I remember coming across Jennifer's story and God using that story to really pretty much take me to my knees. Like I remember weeping one afternoon. I remember calling Beth and saying, we need to do this. Like we need to do the training and let's open our home to foster care. She's like, I've just been waiting on you. And so, fast forward through that process a little bit, we knew she moves down here and I'm like, you need to get connected with people that are doing it. So go to the support group.
yeah,
So I'm like, and she didn't know anybody and you know her.
right.
She would sometimes say, I don't like people. She loves people, but
She does. She's a softie, man.
She is.
She's a softie.
But she's an introvert, right? She recharges away from people, and not knowing a soul, she walked in and rang that doorbell at that support group, knowing, hey, I need to learn more. I need to get connected with people that are doing it, but also knowing, hey, there's going to be people in our our small group, and we were part of getting involved in a church small group, and they can all be part of this, right?
100%.
So we're going to need that support. So we knew it was needed. You can't do it alone.
right.
And if there's listeners out there that are trying to do it on their own, certainly don't do that. Try to get connected with people that
100%.
are doing it.
And so you had this vision of getting dads together, having the Center Dads Retreat.
Sure.
Why? What was that vision? Like, why did you want to get other dads together to connect.
Yeah. I think it's like anything, like approached it since I was 12. Okay, Jesus, what do you want me to do? And what do you want me to be part of? And I was at a family camp out at the HEB Foundation camp in May of 2019. I was actually out there with Jennifer and Kyle, and remember going on a hike, and you know the view.
Yeah.
And God just made it clear, looking down, like, you need this for dads. So it was like, oh, okay, that's what we'll need to do. And then COVID happened.
Yeah, and then COVID happened. But now we've
but
already had 5 center dads retreats.
And Ricky Wilson, he started that like, hey, let's do something small before we officially had a center dad. So it was kind of the pilot program. And it was, we had 10 guys or 11 guys show up, and it was great. Like, and then we launched Centered the following year, knowing that it was needed and God's vision.
And that's been one of the highlights for me of the whole year, is getting to go on the center dads retreat and leading that with, co-leading that with you and Ricky and Kyle and some other men. And I think, though, I've really been struck by how many people do feel very isolated.
Yeah.
Why do you think people feel so isolated in foster care?
Is it just foster care? I think
probably not. I think that there are some variables in foster care that
sure.
Maybe...
I think the variables, though, in foster care are, I signed up for this. This can be hard at times. We already talked about, like, it's life-changing for my family in a positive way. So I don't want to paint the picture that it's always hard. But when do we grow the most? It's through our challenges. Mm-hmm. When you sign up for it and you make the choice, and if there are people and maybe in our lives that maybe question, why did you sign up for something hard? Well, I'm not gonna go to them for support because they don't understand.
Right.
And so I think those are some of the variables. If you run to just people that are doing hard things and are currently fostering, then you kind of feel like you're drowning together.
Right.
That's not always a positive thing.
Right.
Either. So
100%.
Those are the variables to isolation. But I think our society today, though, we tend to isolate from deep connection.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway. And so that's another, you had that layer, that initial foundational layer combined with the other things we already talked about. So then it can certainly lead to isolation.
For sure. And back to your family for a moment, when you think about like the unfinished parts of this story of saying, hey, there's still a lot of heart here. Yeah. There's still trauma. Yeah. There's still lack of resolution. A lot of healing too. Yeah. And like, what keeps you saying yes? Like, what keeps you...
Jesus hasn't changed. I mean, certainly we're not taking in 11-month-old girls all the time anymore.
Yeah.
Not that we couldn't. Beth, don't get any ideas. We're as we change through life, we've moved probably into more of a mentorship role for kids as they get older.
Yeah.
So I think it's what Jesus called us to, right? And brokenness of the world still exists. So our yes is still needed.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. For sure. And what would your advice be to, a couple that is following the Lord and that they become aware of the issues that our city and community are having with kids in crisis and have needs? What would you say to them?
Are you asking Jesus, how can I serve in this space? Because if you're not asking the question, he may not tell you. So I would say ask first, because it may not be as a full-time foster family. Maybe it is, right? But if you're asking, he'll give you clarity and provide opportunity and put it on your heart to step forward. Certainly build your foundation of making sure you as a couple are okay. If you're married and you're called to it as a married couple, serve each other well. Have a support system, that people that you can lean into, and then continue to have God give you clarity of how He wants you to serve in this space.
Yeah, and last question for you, Chad. This is the month of Father's Day and celebrating fathers in June. And, you know, we obviously are highlighting the stories of fathers, but what has your experience in this space as a foster adoptive dad taught you, Chad Jackson, about your Heavenly Father?
It's given me a deeper understanding of the sacrifice that Jesus paid for us as we are adopted into his family. That's just so, it brings the gospel so much more clear with a deep soul level understanding of that.
Right.
Of just how the sacrifice, right, that he's paid. And probably in a way I didn't understand it before.
Yeah, and no, that's so good. And I think for me too, just it's helped me understand the level of brokenness that I have in my own life. That sometimes, you know, I think we think, oh, gee, you know, I'm okay. Like I'm good. I'm all right. I'm not, you know, I got this kind of figured out. But man, without intervention, I am totally stuck, and I'm depraved and vulnerable, and Jesus had to intervene for me. And, you know, being able to be in a spot where you see these children that need others to stand in the gap for them, it is a picture of how Jesus has stepped in the gap for us in the gospel.
Not only stepped in the gap for us, but he stepped into messy situations all the time.
All the time.
And Jesus didn't shy away from brokenness, nor should we.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you for being willing to share your story. I have a lot of respect for you, a lot of just love for you and Beth Ann and your family, your children, and you are a major encouragement in this community, and y'all have just been constants in this space and have encouraged so many other families.
Yeah.
So
well,
thank you, man.
Thanks for the invite.
Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate
and
you.
Happy 25 years, man.
That's right.
And thank you for tuning in to the Running Toward podcast for the month of June. For our Dad Takeover, as we hear from other fathers and their experience in this space and are encouraged and inspired by their stories. Stay tuned for the next and final episode in the month of June. And please feel free to share this with a friend. God bless y'all.